I'm live. Okay, here we go. This is week 2. Oh my gosh, this is really exciting. I'm doing it. Consistency, right? We're doing the things actively. So last week, I talked about what was going on in the sky, and that will continue to be a trend. And as you'll notice, there are going to be some gates that stay activated because the planets aren't really moving and shaking that much in whatever that activation is. But there are going to be new themes of our sun and our earth gates at the very least every week that kind of give us a different flavor for what we can experience or expect through this week. And then, as I will continue to do, towards the end, after we get through what's happening up in the sky, if you are a womb holder here on planet Earth, I'm going to be diving into the different cycles of, our four phases. So whether it be the follicular phase, whether it be menstruation phase, whether it be ovulation phase, which is where I am right now, whether it be the luteal phase, wherever you might be, just picking up some tips and things that will allow you to really understand what's going on, not only up there, but also down there. So let's get into it. We're going to go present. We're going to share our screen. I feel like it tells me the same tips every time. I should really clear those, but I haven't read them. All right, so we're going to start with the, cool. We're going to start with where we are right now. So as you'll see, we still have that channel 4816 being activated, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But what is different is the 53 and 54 gates. So the next 6 days are going to teach us a gradual and gentle approach to achieving a goal. Leave invasive plans, haste, and initiative for later. If you learn to look around you and wait for the right moment, a sign or call to action, it will surely come. Slow but sure movement towards your goal during this period will lead you to success or whatever you're aiming for. Rely on the support of your loved ones, and it will provide. Lean on the support of your loved ones and provide it yourself. Change, get to know yourself. Do not be intrusive and rely on your own inner resources. During this period, you can achieve a very deep understanding of things, people, events, and even the whole world. Be receptive, gentle, and pleasant. It is possible that you will discover many new things within yourself. And so what helps is expansion, meaningful development, trusting others, caring. What hinders is immaturity. And we'll get into a little bit more what that immaturity means. Inability to finish what one started, obsession, and greed. So we'll get into those things a little bit, but I wanted you just to see what is kind of like carrying over from the previous and what's kind of being activated anew with this new transit from the 6th into the 12th. So let's stop sharing that tab, and I'm going to cut to the tab that has me on there. So single chart. Okay, so here we go. This is my chart activation right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to hit this little transit button. So that way you can see in the blue what I normally have activated in me. And then with the green, you'll see what is being activated by the current transit. And I see some stuff did change from when I took my notes yesterday, which is crazy. Things are always moving and shaking. That 4 wasn't there yesterday when I took my notes, but it's okay. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling. So what we are focusing on this week with our 53 in our sun and our 54 in our, here we go. So we're going to first start with the 53, and then we'll talk about the 54. So the gate 53 is the gate of the beginnings. And as you can see over here, this is something that I am super familiar with because on a normal everyday basis, my sun is actually 53 and my earth is 54. Granted, I have it in line 5, which is the fixer energy. And this point 2 over here, it's the line of the dancer, which if you want to know more about how the lines play into what you are doing, I definitely welcome you to pull your chart, grab a reading. Let me do my little ticker thing at the bottom so that you can grab your chart there. But yeah, so line 2 versus line 5. What I'm saying is I'm pretty familiar with this energy. So 53 is the gate of the beginnings. So this gate holds tremendous amounts of pressure to start new things. You'll probably remember that this was activated last week as well, but there was a different energy because it wasn't in the sun and the earth gates. So if you have this gate, your role is to get things moving, but not necessarily always to have to finish them. Your challenge is to learn to respond in alignment with your energy to the opportunities you are presented with to get things started. So for me, that's my emotional authority. So because I have my solar plexus defined, I have emotional authority. And so as long as I'm leaning into, just waiting out my clarity, beautiful things, beautiful things. Rather than reacting to the pressure to start everything out of a place of fear, boredom, or scarcity. I work a lot with creatives and solo entrepreneurs who I call soulpreneurs. And so when you kind of are running the show, it can be easy to fall victim to this scarcity and fear mindset. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's the middle of the year. I haven't gotten any new clients in insert whatever amount of time makes you uncomfortable. Let me go ahead and do this really awesome new launch because I need clients right now. So this is that out of alignment energy that we're talking about. This is not listening to the strategy and authority. And so why this gate is so important right now is because, like I said, it's being activated by the sun. And when a gate is activated by the sun is like our core life force energy. So it's going to be a very strong flavor this week. And so I'll use an example of how this shows up or has been showing up in my everyday with this beginnings energy. I will wait until I talk to somebody a couple of times to really just make sure that they are my kind of spiritual cup of tea before I then ask them, can I read their energy? Because if I go in preemptively, then I don't give myself the benefit of knowing who they are and seeing how their gifts show up. So when it comes to this like beginnings energy, every time I do a reading with someone for the first time, it's like this rush almost. It's a fresh start with it. The way that I've come to understand it is like, here's a fresh start for someone to unlearn the crap that has them feeling stuck or has them in this energy of like not being good enough. And so it's the beginning of a path where they get to dive in and they get to change their limiting belief structures in order so that they can change everything in their life. Not even just what that one thing that they were coming to the reading for. So it's this beautiful catalyst moment where 100% what it's saying in terms of like the transit, like in the gate, like not everything you start, you have to finish. There have been some people who I've done a reading with them and then they were so, ignited that they are going and they're buying books and they're doing all of these other things. And so for them, like, I may not necessarily finish that loop of like being the person who goes into, all of these activations and what they mean. And I might not be the person who goes into like, these are how the planets and the energy are affecting you on a consistent basis. I may not get a chance to read their Akashic records once they get a deeper understanding of human design and gene keys and help them really see the patterns that have been showing up over lifetimes. So I, especially with this balancing energy, this 54 energy, which that's where that immaturity, that greed kind of shadow that I was talking about comes in. I have to be okay with knowing that I was the beginning and I don't have to finish it. Even though with this 27, this gate of caring, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to walk with you and guide you through the steps. But some people, they have to go and make their own path. So that's that 53 energy. So 54, our balancing sun gate. It's the gate of ambition. So this gate has the gift of ambition and a limitless drive to be successful here on this material plane. So if you have this 54 activated, you have the ability to work hard and fulfill your dream and to get recognized for those gifts. You have this inner desire to rise up and motivate others who want to transform as well. Your challenge, pardon me, got the hiccups a little bit. Your challenge is to learn to be a conduit of divine inspiration and channel this ambition into something of value. So I will give the example of like last year. But first, let me talk about let me talk about the earth. So this earth is like this grounding and balancing energy. And so for me, like I was going to say, this gate of ambition has been taken to a whole new level with the spiritual work that I'm doing. When I was predominantly a business and mindset coach, I had a lot of drive to understand the proven strategies and frameworks. I figured the more that I knew and I could show that I knew, the more I could teach people. But when I began to understand that the problem was deeper than people being scared to use ChatGPT or getting friendly with other AI tools or getting visible with video, it lit this whole new fire in me once I truly understood what the problem was. The soulpreneurs that I was supporting didn't trust themselves. They didn't have the confidence in themselves that they would be able to do the thing, to succeed. And part of the reason was because they were constantly receiving messages from external sources, and a lot of those messages were telling them that they weren't good enough and that if they just tried this method or they bought this course or they went to this webinar, everything would be magically fixed, and then it wasn't. And so again, when you see something working for other people, but it doesn't work for you, it makes you kind of get into this mindset of like, what's wrong with me? Again, further asserting the narrative that like, well, obviously something's wrong with you, so you can't trust yourself. So just keep seeking out these external things. But once I realized that if they truly knew the blueprint of the gifts that they came into this world with, and they were able to trust in those and to see those beyond a shadow of a doubt and to know the areas where they're more vulnerable to believe that they're not good enough, there would be a whole shift in their energy. Like on a DNA, Gene Keys talks a lot about this. As we contemplate our shadows and we do the work to transform them into gifts, our actual DNA changes. And science is now starting to back this up with epigenetics and the whole gamut of things. So this energy that we're receiving from the 53, the beginnings, and the 54 with the ambition is like, as long as you're channeling this energy into something that is meaningful and always honoring your strategy and authority, then this week is going to be a beautiful start to something that will then take you down the path that you were aligned to. So definitely wanted to get in there. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, oh, wow, that's crazy. These really have changed because now we have the moon activated by this gate 4 energy, whereas before the moon was 33. So that's like actually kind of crazy. So why that's important, the moon is what moves us. It's kind of our driving force. It's the purpose. So now I have to on live because I don't want to keep talking about the 33 when like obviously the planets have changed. So what are we looking at in terms of the driving force with this new transit in our moon? So that is the gate of formalization. So okay, so here are some questions for you to contemplate with this moon energy this week. So am I forcing answers just to release mental pressure? So when you look at the ajna and you look at the crown, you'll see that they're both undefined. So what that means is that the not self questions really come up for us. And so with the crown, it's, am I trying to answer everyone else's questions? And with the ajna is, am I trying to convince everyone that I am certain? And so because we don't have like this as a channel and they're both defined, what can happen with this 4 energy as it's reaching for the 63 is we can feel a lot of mental pressure to think and to come up with answers. And so it's really aligned for you with this driving force of formalization to ask yourself, am I forcing answers just to release the mental pressure? Another question is, what can I do to create more space for the answers to come through? I've recently been talking a lot about the things that I do that help get me out of the head, whether it's going to the aquatic gardens, whether it's sitting and grounding in nature, whether it's doing something at the temple. All of these things get me into my body and out of my head. And I don't know like if this happens for you, but it usually happens for most people, especially when you are a soulpreneur. When you think about your business 24/7, it leaves very little room for inspiration. But the moment you decide like, okay, I'm done with it, I'm going to go take a shower, I'm going to just jam out to some music, then you start getting these downloads, these beautiful ideas that you can then take action on. So how can you create more space for the answers to come through? How can you create more space for what it is that you want to start anew, the new beginning that you want to do this week? There's a lot of ambition. There's a lot of energy and drive to get there, but without, a plan and giving yourself that space to think about what it is that you're about to do, it can be a little bit catastrophic. And then the last question is, am I comfortable with waiting? What can I do to increase my patience and curiosity? So again, it's so many times the pressure from this crown area is very much like pressure to think. But if we can just wait and trust in our strategy and authority before we take action, so much more aligned. I wanted to spend a little time. Okay, cool. We're only 19 minutes in here. Last week I had to like rush through and get things out because I had a meeting at 10, but we're making pretty decent time right now. So I wanted to talk about some of the other gates that are being activated because you may be experiencing some of these other gates. It may not be as strong as like this gate of ambition. It may not be as strong as this gate of, wanting to start something new this week, but nevertheless, you're probably still feeling the energy in some way. So this gate 33. So this gate right here, it's showing all of the gates in the throat, but I'm talking about this little one right here. So this gate 33 is the gate of privacy. And so people who have this gate already. And again, I encourage you to head to the site that is tickering below and pull your free chart if you haven't already, so you can see if you normally have access to this gate. But if you do, you have the energy of a historian who often craves privacy to retreat and reflect on the past in order to process what you've learned from experience and from the stories of others. When the time is right, you'll be asked to share your wisdom, to tell the stories from various perspectives and reveal its truths. The challenge for people who normally have this gate 33 energy is to learn to share a personal narrative that reflects your true value and your worth with the intention to serve and improve the direction of others. So before I even had got to this gate in my research last night, as I was preparing for this live stream, I was already in this energy of how can I bring more of what I've experienced with these gates into what I'm sharing so that people can relate to the gates themselves and the energy of them and not just the number. Because I know for me, I'm getting to a place where I see a gate, I immediately know what the gate means, and then I start contemplating it that way. But there are so many people who aren't as familiar with human design as I am, and so there's not that automatic contemplation. So bringing in stories helps with that. So that's the gate 33 energy. As we move into this G center, I want to highlight, furthering that narrative of stories, I want to highlight this channel. So as you can see, normally in blue, I have this activation of the 51. And with the transits right now, it's activating still this 25. And so what that's doing is it's creating a channel in me. This is the channel of initiation. It's a design of needing to be first. And the keynote, so every channel is a part of some sort of circuitry. And if you're in my Limitless You community, we do talk more in depth about the understanding of like circuits and things like that, gates, all of that. But this particular channel is in a circuit where the keynote is empowerment. And this is so in alignment. Many of my normal circuits are in the collective, which is like a keynote of sharing, or in the tribal, which is the keynote of support. So I'm here to, really have like support around me, to support others, and to share my experiences for the benefit of the collective. Even if it's a mistake that I would rather not share, I know that it will help someone else. So it's even more incumbent upon me to share. So with this channel 2551, it's this keynote of empowerment. So if you have this channel normally, shout out to you. It's also sometimes referred to as the channel of universal love, but it's this ability to initiate others to get out of their comfort zone through one's own strong competitive willpower. So this competitive willpower, this comes from the 51 naturally. And so the competitive willpower that radiates from your being is contagious and uplifts the people who are around you or the teams that you're a part of. You're kind of like this cheerleader and motivator that pushes others towards greater heights that, on a normal basis, they would never go alone. And you truly believe that everyone has the potential to be great in their own right. So this is what's being activated in this channel. So as I reflect, from last week and even into this week, as this channel is still really strong with its energy, some of the questions that you can contemplate if you have this 2551, we all have temporary, well, if you don't already have the 51, you don't have temporary access to it. You're just feeling the influence of the 25. But if you normally have 51 activated and you're experiencing temporary access to this channel, or you already have this channel in your chart, these are some questions for you to really contemplate this week as we receive extra influence from up above. So what has shock and the unexpected taught me in my life? How can I deepen my connection to source? How can my experiences of initiation be shared with others? What am I here to wake people up to? So what is this big why that's really igniting your soul? Because this can help you as you start to, again, right? We're in the energy of beginnings. This can be so cemented deeply in you that when you go to begin with all of your ambition and all of your drive and all of your past experiences that you're bringing in from this historian energy from the throat, like, how can we bring this out more? What are you here to wake people up to? How does my gift of universal love show up in my life? This is the channel itself. Do I have a regular practice that connects me to source or the universe or God? Whatever you insert in that higher power energy, what can you do to get closer? And then the last question is, am I living true to my purpose? How can I deepen my connection to my purpose? For me, this is 100% what I'm doing with these lives. I am getting a deeper understanding of the gates themselves. I'm getting to experience how the flavors show up in my life as they're activated by different planets and they move around and do different things and activate things in me. But also getting to share those experiences, not just contemplate it, but also to share with the people who are watching this live stream, thank you, is helping me get closer to my purpose. Because ultimately, and this is said over and over in my gene keys, I am a continual force of expansion in the world. I am always looking to grow, especially personally. Personal development is my jam. And the more that I know and I understand, the more that I can help other people, because I can start to see areas where I was leaning into my shadows, and I can offer recommendations and insights and look at their chart and give them guidance on how they might be able to transform those challenges and those struggles into the gifts that they truly are. We've just been conditioned to believe that they are limitations. So, yeah, this 2551 energy is awesome. And so while we're talking about channels, so this is one that if you have the 51 active in your chart, you're going to feel the energy, but we're still receiving that influence from the 16 and the 48 connecting here. This, the channel of talent, it's the design of talent. And so remember how I was talking about just with the 2551, the keynote was empowerment. This keynote is sharing. So how are you, keeping the energy of last week, sharing your talents with others? And so as a reminder, this channel 4816 has the ability to develop skills into talent through hard work and effort. It's designed to have intuitive depth with repetitive experimentation and practice. The key to successfully developing your talent is that you must be completely identified in doing something that you love, as it takes a great deal of dedication and repetition to achieve mastery. So what are those things, right? And for me, this is 100% aligned, being activated as one of the gates in the throat. So on a normal basis, look at my poor little throat here. No activations at all. And for the longest time, I saw the shadows in this because it was like, I don't have consistent access to my voice. Like, one of the gifts of having an open throat, like a completely open throat with no activations, is that you have the gift of being able to talk to really anyone, and your voice can shift and change and meet people where they are, so that the message that you're trying to get them to understand is clear. And so not having consistent access to that voice is sometimes scary. And so what I'm loving with this transit is that I'm receiving this constant, I'm receiving this constant, can I click the channel? Okay. I'm like, I want to make it so that it like stays, but every time I move my mouse, it moves. But what's happening with this channel is I'm getting to practice, right? I'm getting to practice live, getting out of my own way. Because what happens with the open throat, because I don't have consistent access to this voice, I then kind of like keep it in a box. And I just, but this is like making me practice. It's making me do the things that are in my design, which is the keynote of sharing, the keynote of support, the keynote of empowering others through the experiences that I've gone through. So it's giving me access to this, which I love. It's getting me out of my comfort zone. So everyone, if you already have this channel active in your throat, and your spleen, if you already have this channel active, then you're gonna be doubly empowered to reflect on these questions this week. So, do I trust my own knowledge and understanding? What needs to be healed, released, aligned, and brought to my awareness for me to deepen my self-trust so that I know everything I need to know? How is the fear of inadequacy keeping me stuck? What can I do to manage this fear and get to where I envision myself to be? Do I need to slow down and make sure that I've done my homework before I take action? I gave the example last week of, doing the research and the homework on Sunday so that I felt really empowered and aligned to do the first one of these. Same thing. How am I continually doing my homework? I started my soul realignment course for being able to enter the Akashic records. So yes, doing these things, honing my spiritual gifts and intuition and things like that. So what does that look like for you? If I am feeling indifferent, what interests and skills am I not allowing myself to pursue? If I'm overcommitting, what interests and skills can be reprioritized for later? Pardon me. I'm having to do this with a few things this week. Things that I really thought, what is happening? I need to drink something. Things that I really thought were important. I'm now like, okay, in the grand scheme of things, how does this truly measure up? Whoa, that's really big. Didn't realize. I was like, what's the difference between the ticker? Okay. All right, so let's get into some of these gate activations. I wanted to talk about the sun and the earth. I wanted to talk about the influence from the moon. And then I wanted to talk about channels that are really being present with this. So now let's just talk a little bit about each of the gates, and then we'll get into what's up with ovulation. And then we'll close this bad boy out. So this 8 that we see here coming from the throat, this is the energy of I know I can contribute or not. So this gate is innately able to draw attention of others through telling profound truths, which I think that's just really on the nose, again, from the universe, that's what I'm doing in these lives. It just feels really good when you stop and take a moment to appreciate how aligned you actually are. 23 So also in our throat right here. The 23 being activated is the voice of I know or not. So this gate expresses insights that are ahead of their time in a clear and concise manner. So you truly know something when you can explain it in simple terms. So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, my marketing is really on point this week, I'm feeling like, things are really clicking. I know and I'm comfortable in what I'm talking about. You can definitely thank this gate 8 and this channel of talents that we are experiencing right now for that. And then the last one being activated in our throat is this gate 62. And so this is I think or not. So it's an expression of facts, details, and patterns. This gate expresses information with precise language and words. The words you choose are intentionally infused with an understanding and precisely chosen to be versus precisely chosen to be the vessels for this energetic message. Whatever that message that you're feeling called to share, this is coming from this 62 activation. Other gates that we have being activated, we have this gate 60, and it's in Pluto. And so Pluto, for context, when it's activated, it represents your truth. So it's the deepest lesson. The deepest lesson is to find the light within the darkness. So when it comes to this gate 60, we're talking about the gate of limitations. And this played a role last week as well. So it's carrying over. So if there are any challenges that you're still carrying over from last week that you're like, okay, I really can't shrug this. This again, with this activation in Pluto, I'm challenging you. How can you shift your perspective about whatever the challenge is that you're facing? And one of the things that's been helping me is to put on my coach hat. I realize that I wear my coach hat, but in my personal life, obviously I take it off, and with good reason. But sometimes just being able to put the coach hat on when I'm experiencing some difficulties in relationships around me, like it really helps me shift my perspective enough to have that aha that helps it not be such a challenge, if that makes sense. But this gate 60, it holds the potential to bring lasting change to the world. It operates in a pulse, so we don't always have consistent access to this. It kind of, but it desires to spread innovative ideas to the collective in cycles. There's a great pressure to be innovative and a part of the cutting edge. What is happening with my words? And a part of the cutting edge. It recognizes limitations and desires to challenge them. So this is good energy to have at the beginning stages of something, because at the beginning, we all know how hard it can be to start that first day, that first step, that first whatever it is. Once we do the first thing, we automatically learn something that can help us for the next time. So it's a great gate to have with this activation. Okay, 22. So we're experiencing some energy from this solar plexus gate right here. So can I click it? So that it comes, yeah, Saturn in 22. So this is also known, this is known as the gate of grace, but it's also known as the gate of openness. So it has the potential awareness of what is worth listening to when in the mood. It has some nervousness over silence and others receiving your openness. And so when it is activated in Saturn, you want to think about what keeps you on track with your priorities. And so I thought it would be really helpful to bring in a little bit of the gene keys work that I do with this particular gate, because I also have this activated in my gene keys. It's the SQ, which I'm still going through that retreat sequence, but this shows up a lot in relationships. So As you can see with the 22, it's got this little up arrow here. Not everything has an arrow, but if it does have an up or down arrow, that just means that it's very specific, the energy of how you're going to experience this. And what the beautiful part is that it's going up. And so I looked it up. And so when it is pointing up, it's the independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others. So in human speak, individual expression which attracts attention but not threat. So when we're thinking about the different frequencies of this, the shadow is dishonor of this, the lowest vibration of this gate 22. And when we think about dishonor, yes, you can look it up, the definition 100%, because a lot of times our brains will think of these, our brains will associate the societal context of how we understand a word, but then you look up the definition and it's like, oh, this means this, intriguing. And it gives you a different way to kind of chew on it. But the founder of Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, he does a beautiful contemplation on this shadow of dishonor. And basically what he says is that when we put on the victim hat, oh, woe is me, why is this happening to me? Why does the universe want me to learn this lesson? You know, just kind of crying it out. We actually dishonor ourselves because we are these infinite cosmic beings with limitless power and creative potential. And when we shrink ourselves down and we put on this victim hat, we're actually dishonoring ourselves. And so how can we transform that victim hat into taking some responsibility, into the gift, which is graciousness? At its highest city is grace, but in the gift of graciousness, how can we be more gracious with ourselves? Especially, right, because it's being activated by Saturn, what it takes to keep you on track with your priorities. How can I give myself more grace, right? If life is showing up, if life is in session while you're trying to tackle this big old to-do list for your business, how can you give yourself more grace in that situation? 21. 21. Is this the last? I think this is the last one. Yes. This is the last one. So this 21 coming out of the heart or the ego center. This beautiful, let me see if I can get 21. So this is in our north node. And so when things are activated in our north node, it's what you're moving towards. And if it's activated on the personality side, it's specifically what you think about the world and yourself. So when you, in normal charts, not just the transit chart, but in normal charts, this usually doesn't start to show up for you until like 38, 40, I think is the range. I didn't write that part down, but when you hit that age, you start moving towards the north node, which is, it signals a process of letting go of what no longer serves you. So when we think about this 21, this gate 21, it's the gate of the hunter-huntress. It's the willpower to control. At your highest frequency, you are in control of the situation without pushing or forcing your authority. This gate is designed to thrive in the material world. So when we're thinking about this willpower to control, what is it that you are really taking responsibility for? What you think about, your perceptions of the world, your core beliefs. What are you taking with you, and what are you letting go of? One of my main talks, Liberate Your Mind, that's one of the first activities that we do, is we start to challenge those limiting beliefs. we start to challenge beliefs. We do challenge limiting beliefs, but not in the first exercise. That's that's jumping way in. In that first exercise, I have people think about, small things that we normally wouldn't think anything of, like small things like going to college right after high school, small things like getting married by a certain age and having kids and doing that whole gamut of things. So where are these beliefs holding you back, maybe causing you to put on more shame and more guilt and holding you back from really stepping into the fullness of who you are? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that tab because I have a new thing to show you. What is it called? Taking charge of your fertility chart. I have to log in. To log in so that I can show you. Luckily, I can. Chart gallery. Bear with me. Okay, so we are in this one. Okay, cool. Now I can share. All right. So there we go. All right, so what's up? Ovulation week. That's what's up. So really interesting things are happening. So let me talk high level about what I wanted to bring into ovulation week. So estrogen levels are peaking. And so why is this important? This is when our mood as women is at its best. When you are going through this ovulation phase, it's a good time for communication. It's a good time for socializing. It's a good time to increase the workout intensity in terms of productivity, further asserting that narrative of communication and socializing. It's a good time to engage in group work. It's a good time to attend conferences and networking. It's a good time to do interviews and have hard conversations. It's a good time to be creative and to have that outward focus. Because as we know, as we are about to enter this luteal phase, we're about to kind of start reflecting inward. And so for the science, official science, this ovulation period is only 12 to 24 hours as the egg becomes ready. And then if it's not, it's not fertilized, then it will just kind of but the FAM method, if you're using FAM for birth control, it gives you 5 to 7 days because, as we know, there are pockets that can hold on to the male semen and then it increases the window. So it's 5 to 7 days if you're using the FAM method, but you're really going to feel that energy surge whenever it's closest to your ovulation window, which is the 12 to 24 hours. And so if you look at the chart here, you'll see that I'm right in alignment. I've been doing OPKs. So OPKs stand for Ovulation Predictor Kits. So I've been doing them for the past 3 days. I normally start around day 10. I'm expecting a positive one today or tomorrow. This is my fourth cycle that I've been tracking. But usually it's pretty accurate. So I'm expecting either today or tomorrow for that to be positive. And then what happens is kind of immediately after that, I can start to see my energy just slowly decrease post ovulation. And when we talk about the luteal phase, I'll get more into that, but I am in a good place right now where I have all of this extra vital life force energy. When I was answering emails this morning, I was like on my little stepper machine for 40 minutes and I was just really like in the flow. And so I know that pretty soon that flow is gonna kind of take a dive. but I'm at least able to predict it because I am in tune with the cycles. And once this whole chart is full, which will happen in a couple weeks, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about, like, you know, how the temperature has fluctuated and what that means. But I wanted to at least let you know, ladies, if you are also in ovulation week with me, it's a good time for socializing. It's a good time for communication. It's a good time to increase that workout intensity. It's also a good time to start adding some almonds, some citrus fruits, some flax seeds, some leafy greens, some berries, and tomatoes, because it will just make that transition from ovulation to luteal that much more seamless, less hiccups. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing that. And I'm gonna say thank you because we rocked it out. I didn't know if this was gonna be an hour-long live stream. Looks like we're finishing up around 50 minutes. So that allows me to know when these really start to have a rhythm. I can start doing like Q&As for the last 10 minutes. So that's exciting. Thank you for bearing with me. And until next week, when we talk about what's going on up there and down there.